Gonna paint these black. So this fits really good. But look, you won't see any of the engine at all. I was thinking maybe I'd make one of these open. Welcome back to Jet Scale Models and part 5 of this MiniArt RSO with the PaK 40 mounted on its back. We're finally getting into the heart of the beast, starting to work on the mounting base that's going to hold the long-barreled menace in place. This is where the brute purpose of the RSO starts to take shape. The gun's not just along for the ride anymore. We're locking it in, giving it a home, and finishing off the build-up of the 7.5 centimeter PaK 40 itself. There's some fiddly bits, some heavy metal attitude, and a good chance I'll get CA glue on my fingers again. So, let's dive in and see if we can wrestle this thing into place. What you see here flashing across your screen are some pictures I took at the Munster Panzer Museum in Germany many moons ago, and it's to give you an idea of how it looks in real life. Of course, this being a plastic injection molded kit, some of the details are not as finessed as the real thing, but they give a good representation. So looking at the instructions, you can see there is part E11, and that is what goes onto the base of the PaK 40 gun. So you can see here, I'm just doing a test fit of where it sits on that other piece that I built in the previous episode. So I've got this part to put on, and I guess I should have put it on before I put that guard on the left side there. I managed to get it on in any case. In the waning years of the Second World War, the German Wehrmacht found itself in an increasingly precarious position. Outgunned, outproduced, and outmaneuvered. Yet, as the Eastern Front swallowed men and machines in endless tide, German ingenuity remained grimly determined. One such manifestation was the fielding of the RSO PaK 40, a hybrid of desperation and practicality. An anti-tank gun hastily bolted onto the back of a tracked utility vehicle. But behind every potent weapon lies a quieter companion, the means to aim it. And for the 7.5 centimeter Panzer Abwehrkanone 40, whether dug in on a field or precariously perched on a bed of a Raupenschlepper Ost, that means came in the form of a Zielfernrohr 3x8, the ZF 3x8 telescopic sight. The ZF 3x8 wasn't fancy, it didn't need to be. Its job was brutally simple: spot a target, be it a T-34, KV-1, or a Sherman, and lay steel on it fast with surgical accuracy. The ZF in its name stands for Zielfernrohr, or target telescope, and the numbers told the tale: 3 times magnification and a field of view of 8 degrees. The scope wasn't meant for long-range sniping or romantic vistas. It was a tank killer's tool, with optics turned to just the right balance, enough zoom to identify a target at 500 to 1000 meters, but wide enough to allow the swift tracking under battlefield stress. Physically, the sight was a compact cylindrical tube, about 250 to 300 millimeters long, with external elevation and windage turrets, and a small rubberized eyepiece to cushion recoil shock and dirt ingress. Inside, it featured an etched reticle with stadia lines, calibrated for the ballistic trajectory of the 7.5 centimeter PaK 40's various shells, HE, AP, CBC, and hollow charge. Next up, we're going to make this small little rectangular box that is mounted to the shield above the gun. On the left side of the German PaK 40 anti-tank gun, just below the gun sight, you'll find 2 prominent hand wheels linked to metal rods. These wheels are the gun's aiming controls. One raises or lowers the barrel, controlling elevation, and the other swings it left or right, controlling traverse. By cranking the upper wheel, the gunner smoothly elevates or depresses the long 75mm barrel, while the lower wheel pivots the gun's carriage for fine horizontal adjustments. This simple mechanical system gives a single gunner precise control to line up shots quickly, without having to reposition the entire gun. In battle, these hand-cranked gears are crucial. They allow the PaK 40 crew to swiftly zero in on moving targets and track enemy armor with accuracy. In fact, the designers even built a small trigger button on one of the hand wheels so the gunner could fire the weapon without ever taking his hands off these controls. The result is a straightforward but effective aiming mechanism enabling fast, accurate gun laying under the stress of combat. Alright, here we're going to mount the gun sight. It all went together pretty easily. Alright, I'm jumping around a little bit here, but I'm going to get these hand wheels in place. I accidentally glued the wrong one into the wrong position, but I will come back later and switch them out. You can tell which one goes where because there is one that has an extra part, which is that remote button that is used to fire the gun without the gunner actually having to move from the sight.
So wait, alright.
Behalte für Zielfernrohr. This is a storage container designed to hold the main Zielfernrohr aiming scope when it is not mounted on the gun. It's part of the crew's procedure to protect sensitive optics during transport or when not in use. This particular setup is associated with German artillery like a PaK or other field piece using the Aushilfsrichtmittel 3-8 auxiliary aiming device number 38. All right, these little tiny pieces are for opening and closing the little viewport that is in the shield. In step 53, you're instructed to glue in parts AB58 and AB57. However, in step 59, you are then asked to glue parts AB44 and AB43 behind AB58 and AB57. I found this nearly impossible to do, so you may want to try gluing AB44 and AB43 in before attaching AB58 and AB57. It might work out much better that way. So in step 63, you get 4 different options for the muzzle brake. In option 1, the leftmost, parts AB52, AB34, and CG2 are a double baffle muzzle brake with prominent wide slots. This was the standard and most commonly seen type in late war PaK 40s. Option 2, which has parts AB52, AB33, AB34, and CG2, is a similar double baffle barrel brake, but possibly with a slightly different baffle or flange detailing. A variation in field manufacturing or from a different factory batch. Option 3 has part AB33, AB51, and CG2. It's another double baffle design, but with more tapering at the base and smoother contours. Possibly a variant for mounted applications like on the RSO or self-propelled versions. And option 4 is using part AB53 and PE5. It's a muzzle brake cover, likely made from canvas or rubberized material, stretched and fastened over the muzzle brake. These covers were used to protect the muzzle brake from dust, debris, and moisture when not in use. Often seen on transported or stored guns, and sometimes it was used in the field during bad weather or to protect frost buildup. This container holds the cleaning rod piston, which is used for cleaning the barrel of the gun. After firing, residue from the propellant and fouling can build up inside the barrel. The Wäschekolben would be attached to a cleaning rod and used in maintenance routines to keep the gun bore clean and ensure reliable operation. I believe this tube holds a self-destruct charge for blowing up the barrel if they need to abandon the vehicle. Alright, moving on to the next step, part 67. In this stage, we'll start working on these side pieces. MiniArt gives us the option to build the sides of the wooden platform either in the closed upright position or in the open folded down position. The open position was typically used when the gun was being fired. So just be sure you're using the correct parts depending on which configuration you choose. There is a bit of cleanup where the mold line is showing on these parts, but it's an easy fix with a hobby knife and a little bit of scraping. Alright, well you can see here in part 69 what we've got to do is create the same thing, but this time we're using singular pieces of a hinge. A decade ago, I built the Aber photo etch set for the Optical RSO, and here's how that looked. In the next step, we'll be adding a few components to the rear wall of the firing platform. However, I'll probably hold off on attaching them until after the main painting is done. What we're looking at here is a light and a jack, both of which get mounted to the back side. So I've got the room temperature vulcanizing RTV rubber mold made, and so now what the next thing to do, I'm going to put some 2-part resin in here, and that'll give me these plates, because I'll have to cut out all these plates, or some of them, or 2 of them, and then I'll replace it with the ones that I cast, because I'm going to have to make a substructure like this. This is the Aber kit, and you can see that there's a bit of a substructure to this. It's funny though, like the Aber set is quite a bit bigger than the MiniArt one, so I don't know whose is off. All right, well, here is the thing. I glued it together earlier, but it kind of got wrecked because the pink RTV stuff wasn't kicking. So I put it on my stove while something was cooking inside, but it got a little bit too hot and it worked, but it's not a big deal. So now what I think I'm gonna do, maybe I'm gonna scribe along the side on the inside rather than the outside. So looking at this Aber buildup, you can see basically what I'm trying to create here. I want to make the lower part of the platform open so that I can put in some ammunition into that space.
Oops. Shoot, I kind of did both sides. Oh well. I didn't want to do both sides.
So that's my backup in case this other thing doesn't work out. I had to fill a little bit because I cut the plastic not very good. So there you have it. Now I got to fix the bottom so it'll fit. And that wraps up part 5 of our MiniArt RSO mounting the mighty PaK 40 anti-tank gun. Hope you had as much fun watching as I did building it. Things are really starting to come together now, and we've got plenty more detail and mayhem coming up. So be sure to join us next time. In the meantime and in between time, that's another edition of Jet Scale Models. Y'all come back now, you hear?